Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. If you are here to talk about youth and social media use and see the social media assets that were created by our partners at Green Table Media, you are in the right place. I will start sharing my screen, just do a little bit of housekeeping, and then we will get started with the content for today. I'm super excited for y'all to see these really cool um, social media assets that were created. All right, so my name is Adele White. I am a project manager at HCET, Healthcare Education and Training, and we're here today to talk about adolescent-informed social media messaging. And Amelia, our presenter, will share a little bit about how that adolescent-informed piece came to be. Oops, not drawing. One moment, please. Trying to click the next arrow. Okay, so if you've been to our webinars before, this is all old news, but if you would like to see subtitles, just click on the little CC closed captions at the bottom, and that will enable you to see subtitles. We like to use Q&A in this format, and the reason for that is because your question will not get lost in the chat. So if you think of a question anytime in the webinar, please use the Q&A function, and then it'll stay right there so everybody can see it. You can put things in the chat, but it just might be difficult if it's a question if we have to scroll up and find it later. So we definitely appreciate you using the Q&A function so it saves your questions front and center for us to answer later. If you want to follow us, see more of our content, trainings, education, you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at hcet.org, Healthcare Education and Training. If I haven't said it already, for those of you who don't know us, we are a nonprofit that focuses on supporting you all as boots on the ground, healthcare providers, public health professionals in your work involving sexual and reproductive health and sometimes trauma-informed care too. So we're here to support you. That's our main goal at HCET. An evaluation will be sent to y'all after this webinar, and if I can remember, I will try to post the QR code for the eval after the presentation as well. And we just really like to hear what has worked for our webinars, what you want to see different. So we really appreciate you taking the time to fill that out. Let me stop sharing so that I can introduce Amelia, who will be speaking with us today. So, Amelia Fontella is a communications professional with more than 15 years of experience supporting organizations and small businesses. In 2016, she co-founded Green Table Media, a marketing and communications consultancy that provides transparent, empowering support tailored to each client's needs. Grounded in social justice, her work spans public health, higher education, and nonprofit organizations, partnering with individuals and institutions committed to doing good. So, like all of you here. Amelia has collaborated with HCT for the past 7 years. We've worked on several projects together. And in addition to her communications work and consultancy, she regularly teaches creative writing in and around her home and community of Madison, Wisconsin. So, Amelia, I am very excited to turn things over to you now.
Thank you, Adele. Thanks. I'll share my screen. Let's get that going here. Let me find my other screen. Okay. All right. Well, welcome everyone. I am so very excited to be here today. Um, what I'm going to share with you today is and it's an example of one project that resulted in creating some assets that can be used, that you all will have access to, that can be used to connect with youth in the social media landscape. But what I'm most excited about, and I guess what I want the biggest takeaway to be, is this is one story. This is a model for something that you can implement even at a smaller scale. So I am a communications professional, right? I'm a graphic designer. You don't need a graphic designer to implement this kind of project for yourself. So you'll have the tools that I created, but I hope that, and we'll talk about ways this can be scaled down, but I hope that my greatest hope for you today is to empower you to try something like this to really amplify the voice of this community, of the young people in your community. Um, so I, if we were in person, I would want people to raise hands, but I still think we can do that. I'm curious who out there is running or is doing social media for your clinic or organization. Can you give me like a thumbs up in the chat? I do see the chat. Okay, seeing Connor's there. All right. Well, Connor's doing social media. Maybe some other folks out there. I'm seeing more too. Great. Um, awesome. Oh, he's from the adolescent health team. Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Trying to get back in the game. I love that. Um, great. I love it. Thank you for showing me that. So let's just take a look at what we'll be covering today. Move to our next slide here. So as we go, I will pause at different points for questions, but feel free to put questions in the Q&A. That's a great tool. And then Adele or Lorianne or someone will help me know that those are out there and get those answered. We'll do our best to answer. I'll do my best to answer all of your questions. I can't always answer every question, but I sure will try, or at least, point you in the right direction on that. But I will pause at a couple points too to just open it up for questions. And we'll hopefully have time at the end also for those. Before we get started, I'd encourage you to think back to when you were a young person. And I'd like you to think about those messages that you heard related to sexual health, especially taking care of your own sexual health, or messages you maybe didn't hear. Um, just think back for a second on that. What messaging did you hear? What messages, what ideas, what things were you confronted with? For me, it wouldn't have been on social media, right? But those messages were out there delivered in other ways. And then think just for a moment, what did you need to hear? What would you have wanted to hear as a young person? What would have empowered you? What would have helped you as a young person? You don't need to put any of that in the chat. This is just really for you to stop and think about. Because essentially this project, we got to kind of manifest this, right? And I'll talk about how this happened, but this project, the end product is some assets, some graphics and some messaging that can be used on social media. But this messaging was shaped and impacted by young people. So this isn't something that I, as a 40-something-year-old person, just put together thinking, this is the right message. And, and the other folks who were involved in this too, we didn't just say like, we know how youth need to hear this. We actually checked in with youth. How do you need to hear this? So this is really special because this is something that was directly shaped by young people across the state of Wisconsin. So we'll talk a little bit about that story, about the process of creating these, again, with the hopes that there's something in here that you can implement, that you'll have these tools, which is great, but these might be a great fit for you, or you might have different messaging you need to share with your community. So I want you to see how maybe you could implement this. We will actually go through the logistics of accessing and using these. Okay, there are these assets, just really quickly going through how to use those. And then I'll share some of the things I learned. I learned a lot in this process and on this project. It was really a privilege to get to work with these young people, and it was absolutely just a lovely experience. So I have some takeaways, just kind of bigger picture things that I learned that I will be implementing as I communicate with younger people, and also some tips for you to use as you do your work. So this was a really, really exciting project. I feel again, really privileged that I got to be brought onto this. So this was initially funded through DHS and in collaboration with HCT and Patch. Now, I know many of you out there probably are familiar with Patch, but it stands for Providers and Teens Communicating for Health. And Patch does some different things, but for more than 15 years, they've been running the teen educator and teen consultant programs. These are ways to get youth voice connected with people serving youth in the healthcare, in kind of the healthcare community. Um, Along the way, as they've been doing this, they really have a reputation as a trusted partner for organizations looking to connect and engage with teens really meaningfully. And I will say that is absolutely true. This is a great organization to get involved with if you ever have the opportunity. By helping adults partner effectively with teens, Patch works to strengthen youth-informed decision-making and expand its impact across communities. So I got to work with Patch, and our goal when we started out was to create a tool to be used by health departments and clinics across the state of Wisconsin to engage with youth audiences on social media. Our big picture message was taking care of your health is important. Under that umbrella, we had 5 different areas. So this messaging originally was developed by DHS and HCT. So we kind of had a starting place before we got the youth involved. Caring for your health was one of the themes. Healthcare independence, expedited partner therapy, healthcare rights, and DoxyPEP were the 5 areas that we chose to focus on for this project. So again, when you look to use these tools, some of those might align with the work that you're doing. Some might not. You may want to create your own messaging for other initiatives and messages that you want to share. So this is, I always remind people just because it's here, and use it how it makes sense for you and use what makes sense for you. All right, let's talk a little bit about how this came together. So as I said, the messaging itself was kind of the initial messages were crafted by DHS and HCT because, of course, as on that institutional level, like we know what messages we do want youth to have, but the hard part is how do we frame that in a way that connects with young people in our state. So we had some messaging. I got the first go at kind of transforming these into images because, of course, we know social media is really, really image heavy. And when we talked to the teens as part of this process, they told us a couple of places, and I've looked at some data too. So you can find out where teenagers actually are. The teenagers in the Patch group that I spoke with named 2 platforms that they are mostly engaged with. And if we were in person, I'd have you guess, but you don't have to guess in the chat. I'm just going to tell you, and it probably won't surprise you. TikTok is one of them, and then the other one was Instagram. Now, when you look at the data, like if you look at Pew does a lot of research about youth and how they're using social media and where they are and how long they're there. YouTube is one of the most popular spots for youth in this landscape. And I've gotten questions before about what about video? And I would just interrupt my own thing and say, if you have the capacity to do any video, definitely do that. Even if your video is a little bit rough around the edges, you can film on a phone. It doesn't have to be, high production value, right? So video is a great place to connect with youth on any platform. That's not what video is. It also takes a different level of time. Sometimes, that's not what we did in this project, but this isn't to say video is not a valuable tool. So youth, they love video. But our youth said they are on TikTok and Instagram. Now, of course, TikTok is not, as I understand it, it's not approved at the state level. I do not think counties are using it. So we did not design for TikTok, right? That's not, and as I looked across at the county health departments across the state, it seemed like most places were using Facebook and Instagram. So the images, we kind of designed this with Instagram in mind, but you can use these assets on any social media platform, especially Facebook, because while Facebook isn't quite as popular among teenagers, and I heard this, both the data reflects this, and then also the Patch youth echoed this, that youth and teenagers still are on Facebook, just not in the same at the same levels. They're on other platforms. So, if your organization just has a Facebook, That's okay. Share this there. You still have an opportunity to connect with youth there on Facebook. All right. So our messaging was created by DHS and HCT. I kind of did the first go to develop it into some images. And then I met with Patch with a group of, I think we had about 10 or 12 young people from across the state of Wisconsin that were all Patch consultants. And I worked with them twice to get feedback on the images. So in the first meeting, I presented them with some initial concepts. They helped me refine those. I brought those back. And even after that second meeting, I made some final adjustments to some additional feedback that I got. So the result, what we have and what you'll have access to is these images that are youth informed, shaped by youth for social media. So really, really cool collaboration. And again, I can't stress like however you can connect with youth, whether it's through Patch, whether it's, gathering some young people in your community, connecting with a high school group. If you have teenagers in your home or, people babysitting for your kids or any relatives, right? Even just checking in with those individuals can give you some insight into the best way to communicate with young people or bounce things off of them. That's really the best if you can bounce something off of them. All right. This is where I'm just going to pause for a second and see if we have any questions so far in the Q&A. And then after that, we're going to dive right in and look at these products, talk about takeaways, and see how to use them. All right. Any questions, Adele, that you're seeing?
Nope, no questions
Okay.
besides the slides will be available after, but yep, nothing yet. Thanks
Yes.
for checking in.
Okay, great. We'll keep going, and there will be time. There'll be time to answer any questions that come up. So let's take a look here. Okay, the final products. Yay. All right. All right, so this is one of our messages and one of our images. So our theme is healthcare rights. It's one of those 5 themes I mentioned before. And the messaging on the right, your health matters, learning about STIs, getting tested and using protection are all ways to care for your health. This is the message that came from DHS. The messages that I got were great. These are really this is really something that you can use in the kind of the body of your message. So of course, on any social media platform, there's an opportunity to post an image and then also somewhere some text. So this message, your health matters and so forth, is a really good starting place for that additional messaging that you are going to craft. And we'll talk more about that because that's not complete. So you wouldn't just post that with the image. You will definitely want to personalize this. You will want to include a call to action. You'll want to include, if the call to action is to contact your organization, you'll want to make that as easy as possible by directing the audience how to connect. Or if you're connecting to resources, you could share those there. The youth really stressed with me that is really important, right? That they want to be able to take action. They want to know what the next step is. So make sure as you're messaging that you're including what you want them to do with the information. So here, some things some kind of notes on the process for this one. The youth advisors, they really liked the perspective of this image. They really liked that they felt like they were looking at the medical provider. They liked seeing kind of the hands there that looked like they could be a young person's hands. They helped shape this second person message, right? So we see healthcare access for teens, kind of just really obvious. This is what we're just saying. This is what we're communicating about. And then the more specific message, you have a right to access healthcare. They liked the use of the word you. They liked that they're directly being communicated with, right? We're not talking about them, we're talking to them. They also, the word right, I forget my first draft of this, what it was, but they loved, I think I had two options for them, and they really resonated. The word right really resonated with them because it felt really empowering to think I have a right to access healthcare. That there was a lot of respect imbued in that. Um, so when you look at this, you see a couple things. One, the audience is identified, right? Healthcare access for teens. So that when we say you have a right to access healthcare, well, we certainly, that could be a broad message. In this case, we're talking to teenagers, and that's identified for them. Because of course, on social media, your message is broadcast to many audiences. And these are still valuable messages for your audience members who aren't teenagers, because the truth is all of us are likely to have teenagers somewhere in our life, right? Whether it's a neighbor, a friend, a niece, nephew, child, babysitter, any of these people in our life, most of us know and care about a teenager. So keep that in mind too, that it's not just teenagers viewing your messaging. It will be people who care for teenagers. So parents, youth leaders, friends, people like that, trusted adults. Um, all right, I think those are my notes on that one. We're just going to go right through. We're just going to talk through these. Something else before I move on that really surprised me about the youth, like the images. The youth really preferred more literal images. And we'll talk about the images that we ended up choosing for this. I initially had some kind of what I call cute ideas. So I think for this one, healthcare access, um, I think I had one of like a girl drinking a smoothie, and it was really cute. It was a smoothie and talking about like how, your sexual health is part of your health and taking care. They didn't like the smoothie. And we'll talk about another example where I tried to be cute. They wanted an image that felt literal, but also had some emotional resonance. So as a graphic designer, I will tell you that when I do design work, I probably spend the most amount of time, maybe second to the messaging itself, to the words, just choosing an image, going through, I don't know, I say hundreds, but it could be thousands sometimes of stock images to find the image that's right. Um, and you'll see in all the images we see today that you don't see any clear faces. So you're not seeing that like face on cheery teenager, which can kind of come across as a little bit fake, a little bit disingenuous for youth. Um, Also just a kind of a good reminder about whenever you're messaging about anything that could be construed as a sensitive topic, that they're typically when you're using stock images, like say from Canva or purchased from Shutterstock or wherever you're getting your stock images, and always be sure you're doing it legally, right? That you have, you're paying for them or you have the rights to use them. There still are, if you kind of dig deep, there's some restrictions about, and I think it's called sensitive use, that if it's any kind of messaging related to sexual health, any kind of thing where that might imply someone has a sexually transmitted infection or any disease, to be honest, there's sometimes are restrictions for um, photographs where a person would be identifiable. So I tend to find images that aren't, you'll see there's one with like a side profile of a couple young people, but that aren't, you wouldn't be able to pick that person out on the street. So consider that. I think it also allows this, in this case, and the students told me, it allows them to see themselves in the picture. So keep that in mind if you're creating your own graphics, but just know that sometimes it does take a while to find the right photo. It seems like it should be so easy, but it's not. Yeah, and Slaney says an image can make or break a graphic, and that is so true. Sometimes they're not reading the words, they're looking at the image. So really important. So another image here, STI treatment for two. Okay, so this is our expedited partner therapy image. We see the message again, expedited partner therapy allows partners to get treatment without an extra visit. Talk to your provider to learn more. And this was one that I had I said I had these really cute ideas. I thought They're really eye-catching. I worked in communications and marketing for a long time, and so I generally actually try to find images that don't feel conventional in a lot of my work. So for this one, I presented two images in my first round with the students, with the young people. One was this image of the two people embracing. Another was a pair of um, similar socks, two socks, but they were slightly different. So it was clear they were kind of mismatched, but it had the tagline STI treatment for two. Um, they really liked the tagline. They did not like the socks. So they really preferred, again, the more conventional image of now these could be partners, these could be friends, these could be any two people who care about each other. And they really liked that too. They said, again, they went to that emotion. They liked that the emotion of care, of comfort, of love was in this picture. So again, it doesn't matter. I like to choose images too that leave some room for people to interpret what it means to them. So it could be that could be a couple, that could be the people receiving the treatment, it could be a friend and a support person, or a friend or a support person with someone. So I think like leaving room in the images you choose for your audience to see themselves reflected is something that I already knew, but was definitely reinforced by the youth as we went through this. Um, and yeah, again, it's these, they really liked these very literal messages. The takeaways or the things I heard a lot from the youth over and over again, they want it very easy to read, very direct, very short, right? So I say this is even kind of a lot. And if you can pare your message down even more on your image, that's even better. So this is still a fair amount of text, but they wanted it that if they're scrolling, it's easy to read. Um, Otherwise, they said they'll just scroll right by. So we'll go on to the next one here. All right, here's another one with our people. This is the one where you get a little bit more of that side profile of a stock, the model, the stock image model. But students loved this image. They loved this image. This was one of their favorites, which again kind of surprised me because I thought like it was kind of generic. But they loved the emotional pull, the warmth. Those were the kind of words they kept coming back to: feeling safe, feeling comfortable, feeling warm. So they really liked that in this one. And again, oh, this might have been my smoothie one, but in this slide too, or in this asset, they chose a more conventional image over something more abstract. So again, like just say your message, put an image with it that makes sense, make it bold and clear. So here we have caring for your health matters, learning about STIs, getting tested, and using protection are all ways to care for your health. And we literally just used that message in the image. So the message that I got from DHS and HCT was so clear, resonated strongly with the youth. So it appears really almost verbatim. So as you are using these images, you may want to, again, in the messaging that you're creating in the text related to the post, you may want to play with this. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but it's also okay to repeat because, people are interacting with these posts in different ways. And so anyway, I don't think there's anything wrong with repeating some of the same information that's in the graphic in kind of the body of your post. So the students to confirm that with me, they said they're used to seeing things like repeated on different platforms or repeated in their feeds, and they said it does not bother them. So they don't have at least in this group, they didn't have a negative reaction to seeing things repeated. And of course, most of us know that it's a good way to learn, right? Is to hear something a couple times. I'm also, well, Adele mentioned that I teach creative writing. And so I often will repeat messages through a class, and it's, if you don't hear it the first time, you might hear it the second time or the third time. And there's nothing wrong with that as you're trying to get these really important messages out to your community. All right. This was probably one of the more challenging images for me because healthcare privacy is it's really abstract. It's really hard to find an image to represent healthcare privacy. So for this, we looked at a couple images and I brought these to the young people. One was a health clinic or kind of like a building that looked like a health clinic that had a sign out front that said parents not required. The feedback I got from the youth were that they were most concerned. They were less concerned about whether a parent might show up at an appointment. They were mostly concerned about their information being kept private. So we changed the messaging a little bit. So you could see healthcare privacy is the theme. The message we are working with from DHS in many places, teens can get healthcare without a parent. Ask your provider about your healthcare rights. They can explain what stays private and when they might need to tell someone. And of course, I'm not a subject matter expert in this, right? I'm the designer, I'm the communicator. But those of you that are out with boots on the ground, you know that healthcare privacy can get tricky, right? There are some things that may not be able to stay private and there are lots of different situations, right? So this one was challenging too because it was a little bit more of a complex message. This image came directly from a student idea. So one of the patch consultants suggested a top secret folder, which I liked, but then I also had been getting feedback over and over again that like they didn't really want like cutesy, they didn't want anything kind of too I don't know, not fun, but like too like unpredictable like that. So I found the middle ground of seeing how the young people were appreciating really straightforward images that were accurately reflecting a situation. And so, you know, you're not gonna see a top secret file, right? Not that's kind of fun. That's like it maybe in a movie or something, but in real life, we'd see the term confidentiality being used. And so I tried this confidential folder with them, and the students really liked it. They also felt it looked more professional. That was another theme that came up as I was talking with the young people. They really wanted images that felt professional. So again, you can see where maybe like my ideas that were a little more cute didn't feel professional to them. They wanted something a little more serious, let's say. So here, healthcare privacy for teens. Again, we're just making it really clear what this is about and who it's for, right? You're not going to let people wonder who this is for and what it's about. And then we provide that information. In many places, you can get healthcare without a parent. They did want me to highlight that word like that, without a parent, and your info can stay private. So again, if you're sharing this image from your organization, this is your opportunity then in the messaging to make it clear what that means. So, you know, if there's more information unique to the work you're doing, you would share that out. Or maybe it's encouraging a young person to call in and ask questions to understand like what things can be kept private and how that works. Let's see. This is the only one you'll notice that doesn't have a person in it. Again, it's a much more abstract idea that's a little bit harder to represent with a person. I mean, we could have gone with an image of a provider and a person or a parent and a young person. But I think for this one, we ended up in the right place with the confidential folder. But again, I still want to reinforce that generally the students prefer to see images with people in them, which was kind of surprising to me, but very helpful. All right. And then our last asset that we have for you is DoxyPep. So this one also was challenging. Again, I'm not a subject matter expert, but from what I understand with DoxyPep, there's certain limitations and certain groups that can use it and that it can be really effective for. So this was a little tricky because, you know, this is where we really want that messaging about asking your provider to see if it's a good option for you, because we know some groups it might be could be a life-saving option, right? STI prevention in a pill. This The students really liked the literalness of this. They really liked seeing a pill, and knowing how the medication is delivered. It felt less scary to them. I think a lot of times youth can be scared of what happens on the other side. So when they come to your clinic, when they come to your organization, how it works once they enter in for an appointment or they enter in to ask a question, but they don't know. They don't know what that means. And so I think this was like a little glimpse of, like things might not be so scary. Like reach out to us, if there might be like options like this that are a good fit that don't feel scary. Um, yeah, they really liked the pill highlighted, and that was one directive that I took from them. It was make the pill even pop even more. So STI prevention in a pill, it's a morning after pill to prevent certain STIs. And again, some of these may or may not be a fit for your organization, but they're a tool, they're a resource, and I think you can look at an image like this and you can think, huh, I could make that myself. Some of you, I could make that myself. And you can. That's the beauty of this, right? Like you can make these messages. And today we've covered a lot already of some best practices, and we will go through those again too, just to make sure you're equipped to go out and say, like, to take what you've learned here, whether or not these tools will be here for you. So you have all of these. But again, this is like hopefully a starting place as you start to connect or reconnect with youth. All right, I'll pause here for a second. Any questions, Adele?
Yes, we have one that came in from Q&A, and then I have a bunch that are in my email actually. But
Okay.
Katie asks, where did you source the photo from? So the one she's referring to is the first graphic that you showed. Are there good resources to check for photos like this?
Yes, that's great. So all of these images are from the paid version of Canva, which I think costs about $12.99 a month. So I realize that, in some ways that's not a lot of money, but I also realize like a lot of folks are working with really tight budgets. The free Canva version, I don't think any of these photos are available in. The free Canva version will have some photos and images that you can use at no cost. I mean, the truth is often, not always, but often you may need to pay for some images. Places like Shutterstock or Adobe have some images that you can use. You can usually purchase them to like as a single image, and depending on your use, sometimes it's not very expensive. Um, there's there are some free stock photo sites. I haven't used it in a while, so I hesitate to say it, but Pexels, Pexels.com, I think, is one that has free stock images. Um, please read the information provided. Sometimes they will ask that you give some kind of attribution to the photographer. So make sure if you're using an image that's from one of the free sites. Oh, yes. Uh, yeah, thank you for reminding me. If you are a nonprofit, you can get a pro account for free with Canva, but local government is not eligible though. Um, so just some options out there, but these particular images came from the paid version of Canva. Great, I love this. Thank you all for dropping these in the comments. Free images on Wikimedia Commons. Yep, that's right. Just make sure that when you're taking, please don't Google like image of a group of teenagers and then just take an image. That's illegal and not ethical. So please make sure wherever you're sourcing your images from that you're using them in the way that you're supposed to. But I do recommend, I mean, if your organization, or I'll say that I just have always had a Canva account that I will have no matter if I'm using it professionally or not, because I just love it as just a general tool in my life. So anyway, I don't work for Canva. There are other options out there, but Canva makes it easier. So yes. All right. Great. Yeah. Thanks, Adele, for that.
Ooh, and then we have another good question if
Okay.
you're ready.
Awesome. Yeah.
Stephanie from Outagamie County Are references to popular culture effective? We just did a post referencing the Olympic condom shortage with the message that we have plenty of condoms and STI home test kits in our vending machine. More on the silly side of things versus maybe professional. What do you think?
I love it. So my take is try anything you feel comfortable trying, try it and see if it sticks. All of our social media tools have pretty good analytics, right? You can see how your posts are performing. So all of you are in different parts of the state with different audiences. Um, I I mean, I love those kind of posts. I think it's worth trying to grab somebody's attention however you can in this landscape. And so while I got messages from this group about like kind of being very literal, which I think is important. I really do think it's worth trying. Like I love that. And I think you know the limit, you know your organization and your brand and you know kind of I don't know, like what voice, I guess, what voice you want to have out there on social media. But I love that post about the condom shortage. I think that is great. I would be watching your posts to see how they perform. Like, do the ones that are a little bit edgier is not the right word, but that are connecting with popular culture, are those performing better than a really classic image? I would just watch that and see what's performing better for you. Do a little like informal A/B testing, not formal, just that Olympics one did really, really well, and this other one didn't. So, and even if you don't dive into your analytics, you can see at a quick glance those responses, right? Likes, shares, hearts, comments, all of that kind of stuff. So I'm very much about like try something fun and creative. So in this, I was working directly with youth and I was honoring their thoughts about these very specific topics. But I love that post that you did. Thank you for sharing.
We have some more questions from my email if now's a good time, or if you want to keep going and save them till the end, what would you prefer, Amelia?
Let's keep going, but then
Okay,
let's get to those at the end just to make sure that we get through this. That way, if when people have to hop on, I want to make sure we get to the good stuff before anyone
perfect.
has to move to their next commitment of the
Perfect.
day.
Thank you.
So these are all available as Canva templates, and I'm going to show you how to access them. You can see here there are 10. There are actually 10 of them. 5 of them have room for your logo if you would like to use it. I don't think that's necessary, but if you may have your own culture and your own brand guidelines, and so you're welcome to brand these as yourself. These should not be attributed to HCT or DHS. These are yours, right? This is a gift to you, and we'll talk about. You can give Patch a shout out; they would love that, but you don't have to do that either. We'll talk about that more later. But these are yours, so if you share them, you share them. You can share them as if you made them. And these are the ones with space for your logo. Most of your logos should work pretty well on this. If you have a really long, skinny logo, it might not. Then I'm just going to say, don't use the logo. Don't do it. If it doesn't look good, don't do it. Um, so, because it's hard. We're working with such limited space on these. All right, so how to access these. So we have a URL, just a short link that you can have save. And I have it magically, I had it actually saved here. So I did drop it in the chat. It for some reason didn't hyperlink. But anyway, you can go directly there. You can use the QR code, whatever's easiest. You'll get this information. HCT will send this to you. You do need a free Canva account. So you don't need a paid, even though these images were through the paid, the way that I've created the templates is I've created an image that I have the right to share and let you use. You will not be able to take the photo, like you will get my whole image. So that's why I'm able to share these with you, even with a free account, because you don't have access to that photo that came. You'll just have access to the final image that I created. When you click on the QR code or go to Youth Health Template, you will just click on View Template, and then you'll be asked to log in to Canva or create an account. When you go into the template, and I won't go through all of this right now, but you'll see 2 pages two screens really before you see the assets. One will be these messages, the actual messages that we looked at. These were the ones on the right side of the slide that you may want to incorporate. You may want to copy and paste and make them yours, but so that you have some content to get you started in the additional content that you write with a post. These tips are there too. So I think a lot of these we've gone through, but these are a starting place, right? This is something like you get to use these, how it works for you. Instagram is one of the preferred platforms, so share there, but share them whatever platforms your organization or clinic is using. Don't forget to add a specific call to action. Another thing that teenagers brought up with me is the possibility of collaborations and partnerships. And really, it's as simple as asking people and organizations to share your messages that are aimed at youth. So the patch consultants mentioned like high school health focused groups that run Instagram accounts that are willing to share out messaging. But whoever's in your community, right? If it's other clinics, if it's other organizations that are youth serving that are willing to share these, just ask. Like, send an email. Hey, we're going to be posting something. Would you mind when you see it? Would you mind sharing it out? Because again, that's kind of I call it feeding the algorithm. The more stuff gets shared and interacted with online, the more people will see it. These images were created with the input of youth, right? Through Patch. So you are welcome. And I confirmed that this was appropriate with Patch. You're welcome to give the Patch program a shout out for help in shaping this messaging. Sometimes you might have to, your organizational page might have to, it's different on every platform and it always changes, but you might have to like or follow that other organization in order to tag them. So keep that in mind. You might have to follow Patch. But that's another great way to just help amplify the message, because the Patch program will then see that. They've said like they're not promising to share everyone's posts out, but in some circumstances they may share it out. So again, they have a really well-developed channel. So I would give the youth a shout out, like, hey, these graphics were shaped by Patch, however you want to say it, but they were informed by the Patch program, or the Patch program helped on these images. So that information is in the template itself. So all of that you'll have access to right when you log in. Using the template, so if you want to put your logo in, again, this is like many of you already use Canva. Canva is pretty intuitive and user-friendly. But you will go in and your logo here is something that you can click and delete. So you can't delete your health matters, you can't delete the message, you can't delete the photo. But when you see that your logo here, you just go in, click on it and delete it, right? And then you can drag your logo in and you can see that in the sample. Just as a reminder, in Canva, to download the images, you go to share. So you choose share and then download. And from there, you can choose the file type, usually a PNG, PNG or JPEG, or either one is usually really appropriate for the use that you will be doing. So going through that quickly, because that's a Canva thing, Google's your friend. So if you're struggling with this, just Google how to download something from Canva. Canva itself has great resources. Lots of other people on the internet do too. All right. All right, so some of these takeaways, and some of these we've already touched on throughout this, but the first thing that I really learned is young people are really receptive to this. They will engage. They want this messaging. Like this kind of messaging is it's welcome to them. But our challenge is to cut through the clutter. So again, I think like we had somebody mention their Olympics post. I think like any technique to cut through the clutter is helpful. So that was something that was interest generating because it was relating to what was going on culturally. Also, just like believe it or not, it aligns with what we are talking about here. These really simple and direct messages will cut through the clutter. So something that either catches their eye enough that they stop and engage, or is so simple that they see it, they get it, and they can move on, right? So cut whatever you can do, and you might want to try something new, cut through the clutter. Um, Bold messages, bold look, right? They really, again, they liked really clean, high contrast came up a lot. So they wanted really, bold, dark lettering on a light enough background, or vice versa, a really dark background with really light letters. They liked that high contrast, which is great for all of us in terms of universal design and being making sure we're meeting accessibility guidelines. So that's really important anyway. So, really high contrast, really clear, but keep it professional. So this group of teens really wanted that something that looked professional. Um, Keep minimal, a short and sweet is always best. But short is really defined by the content that you need to share. So, if there's something, don't miss sharing something essential, um, in the effort to be concise. So find the happy medium, but generally think like the briefer, the better. Um, Include a clear call to action. So great, I'm seeing this message. What do you want me to do? Right? Because my messages that I share don't really have a call to action. That's up to you when you put these out there is to say like, we offer private appointments for teens. Call today or go to our website and make an appointment. Check the box that says private, whatever, however it works for you. So make sure you're giving them the next step and connecting it with your own organization. Sharing resources is also something, if you feel like I don't really have a call to action based on the kind of organization or clinic that you're running, sharing resources, reputable resources from your own website or other, again, like known reputable websites. Share those resources. So yeah, you see a lot of repeats here. So if you leave today, you're going to know, oh, I better make sure I have a call to action resource or contact info in all my posts. Collaboration, we talked about that a little bit already. Share in a variety of ways. So if your organization's on multiple platforms, you can share these out even at the same time from multiple platforms. Instagram and Facebook are often, depending how your settings are, they're often set up to be linked. So you might be doing that anyway. The youth are really used to seeing that. They're used to seeing similar or same messages on different platforms in different modes in different portions of the platforms, right? So when we look at Instagram, we have Instagram posts, Instagram reels, Instagram stories. Tomorrow there might be a new thing to add to that. Like these landscapes change very quickly. Don't be afraid to try out those features. So Instagram Reels, you might think like, oh, that has to be a video, but you can do images. So you could have all five of these messages. I don't know if you should really do that. That's a lot for someone to process, but you could maybe take one of these messages, choose some other images, or add in your own slide with the information related to your organization and put those together in a reel. So you don't have to have actual film. When you play around with the platform, you'll be surprised at how flexible it is and how you can take images and drop them into forms that are very video friendly. And basically it'll turn it into like a little mini video. So share in a variety of ways. I mean, you could print these out and put them up on your wall. I mean, however works for you, try it, right? And that's the other thing is I put that at the end here, but try something. Try it, see how it works. As long as it's in the realm of something that is, abiding by your policies and feels comfortable, try it because it's social media. Things change and move very quickly. It's okay to give something a try. Thank you, Adele. Canva also allows you very easily to create videos or little GIFs and little images. Yeah, Canva is a great tool. So if you're not using it, check out that free version because it's pretty awesome. Involve youth in messaging. So again, the other call to actions are great, but the heart of this presentation is about communicating directly with young people in your community. And so the biggest takeaway is you can't do it unless you check in at least with the youth in your community. So maybe that's forming a focus group. I know budgets are tight, but do make sure in some way you are compensating youth for their time and feedback, right? Again, these are people taking their time. So maybe it's meeting at Starbucks and buying everybody, a round of drinks or a round of, beverages. Maybe it's a gift card for something, that's popular in your community. But do think about that. Think about how can you engage youth? And again, maybe it's as simple as like if you have teenagers at home, maybe it's showing them some of the images or their friends or youth groups in your community, whatever it might be. Find some young people to show them. This is what we're thinking about posting. What do you think? Because generally they'll share like even just a thumbs up or thumbs down, right? Like, oh yeah, that's fine. Or, oh God, no, don't do that. So find youth, involve them at whatever level you're capable of. So if it's talking to one teenager, that's better than talking to no teenagers, right? If you can do a big focus group, if you can go in and talk to a health focus group at the high school, amazing, right? Like there are these groups. So get creative and think, how can I involve youth in my messaging? And again, I would recommend come to them with something. Here's what we're thinking, get feedback and use that to shape because it can feel overwhelming if you just sit down with a bunch of people and say like, great, we need some messages. Can you help us? So come with something to like talk about and then be ready, be open to their feedback and be ready to implement it, right? So don't ask for feedback that you are never going to take, right? So be ready to take that. All right. So we have a few minutes left for a few more questions. So Adele, what do you have for me?
Yeah, there's a good one just came in the chat. Have you had any success with paid marketing or messaging, or does it being an ad actually turn teens away?
Oh my gosh, I love that because somewhere in my notes, I think I have a note about that. I'm a huge fan of throwing a few bucks. Often it is literally a few dollars to boost a post or to create an ad. I'm a big fan because all of these social media platforms, at the end of the day, they want to make money and they will show your stuff to a lot more people if you pay them. Um, so I would say what I said before is try it. See how it performs, see if it generates the action. Like, does it really, do you see increased phone calls from young people? Do you see more young people going, or do you see more traffic on certain parts of your webpage? How are they performing? But I'm a huge fan if you have a little bit of money and I would investigate it because when it depends on a lot of factors, but often it can literally be a few dollars, like $9 to get your post out to, you know, 5,000 people. Again, it's I don't know how they all figure it out. So like there's no it will be unique to you and your organization, but check it out in those social platforms. See what happens if I go, well, how much is it really going to cost to boost a post or do an ad? Because that's the thing is like, if you're coming from this, you're saying, I'm a county health clinic. I don't know how many teenagers are following your page, right? So to really get these messages out, you need a boost of some sort, and that can be organic by other people sharing and getting that message out. But it can also be paid. I am very much pro. If you have a little money, definitely do you can just put these as posts and boost them or do an ad. Very much in favor of that. Thank you for bringing that up because I wanted to mention that as a technique to try.
That's super helpful. Thank you. I think we have time for one more question. One I got in my email is, are there specific things that the young people said they did not like that our attendees should note? Like things to stay away
Oh,
from in socials.
yeah. Well, I will say that if you've ever worked with the Patch Youth, you know that they are very skilled at delivering feedback. And so I would say that the way they deliver feedback is more like, here's what we would like to see. But I think what they didn't like, one thing that they absolutely did not like was a font that was not easy to read. So, um, some young people are not comfortable reading cursive, especially even if they can read cursive, as they're scrolling, they are not going to stop and read a font that is tricky to read. So
Mm.
that was one thing that they said they absolutely did not want to see is like fonts that were looking like cursive, like script fonts. So I would avoid those. Those were really popular for a while. Like you'd have a little script, and I would skip that. I would go with something very easy to read. Um, I'm just looking here. I'm looking through my notes from when I met with them to see. Yeah, I have a note. Did not like this font.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, they also, again, they were so good about wording it in the positive, so they weren't like, we don't like that. But they really wanted, they didn't like, kind of in that same vein, they didn't want things small, they wanted things really big. So they were like, I don't like that font is too small. I don't like that font. It was a lot with the fonts and the readability. They didn't want it too small. They didn't want it obscured in any way. So that would be like my, again, this particular group was very much like focused on what they wanted, not what they didn't like. And so we kind of
Mhm.
worked like that. But yeah, I would say the font thing was something they were like, no, we that was the one thing they were like, oh, we kind of hate that. So
Okay.
yeah, the script font. Don't do that.
Oh, that's so interesting. Okay, that's helpful.
Hmm. Yeah. And
Um,
it kind of it doesn't now because I've processed that and I thought a lot about it, but it did surprise me in the moment. Like not a decorative font.
right. Okay. Yeah, that's just it's so interesting what might be
Yeah.
different from speaking with adults and with young people.
Yes.
So we will let you go because I realize we're at time, but
Thank
y'all will
you.
get all these resources in in your email. I'll send out a thank you email after we're with everything link, and I will add the DoxyPep link that Lorianne shared as well in the chat. Um, Thank you so much, Amelia, for taking the time to walk us through and like doing the extra, legwork to show us how Canva works. 'Cause I know some people are using it, for some it will be a new tool that hopefully they'll be able to, to utilize going forward because it is really helpful. Even the free version I
Yeah.
used for a long time and it's
Yes,
it's super helpful.
for
Thank
sure.
you so, so much.
Okay.
Have a good rest of your day. Thank you everyone for joining us. And this is being recorded, so if you missed part of it, the recording will be linked in the thank you email as well. Thanks, everybody.